What did the inside of Solomon's temple look like? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 1 Kings on walking through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 1 Kings chapter 6, verses 14 to 28. But before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 14. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 1 Kings chapter 6, beginning of verse 14. So Solomon built the temple and finished it, and he built the inside walls of the temple with cedar boards. From the floor of the temple to the ceiling, he paneled the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the temple with planks of cypress. Then he built the 20-cubit room at the rear of the temple from the floor to the ceiling with cedar boards. He built it inside as the inner sanctuary, as the most holy place. And in front of it, the temple sanctuary was 40 cubits long. The inside of the temple was cedar, carved with ornamental buds and open flowers. All was cedar. There was no stone to be seen. And he prepared the inner sanctuary inside the temple to set the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord there. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold, and overlaid the altar of cedar. So Solomon overlaid the inside of the temple with pure gold. He stretched gold chains across the front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. The whole temple he overlaid with gold until he had finished all the temple. Also he overlaid with gold the entire altar that was by the inner sanctuary. Inside the inner sanctuary he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. One wing of the cherub was 5 cubits, and the other wing of the cherub 5 cubits, 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. And the other cherub was 10 cubits. Both cherubim were of the same size and shape. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was the other cherub. Then he set the cherubim inside the inner room, and they stretched out the wings of the cherubim so that the wing of the one touched the one wall, and the wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. And their wings touched each other in the middle of the room. Also he overlaid the cherubim with gold. In this chapter we are seeing the construction of the temple built by Solomon. We have noted some differences between the tabernacle and the temple. The first noticeable difference was the size, with Solomon's temple being about double the size of the tabernacle. The temple would measure about 90 feet long by 30 feet wide, whereas the tabernacle was about 45 feet long by 15 feet wide. The tabernacle was made of tapestry and wood, while the temple was made with hewn stone. The tabernacle had no windows, while the temple did. So the tabernacle was a modest structure, one that could be easily moved if needed, while the temple was ornate. We didn't say this in the last lesson, but we should note that the designs of the temple were made with God's approval, just as the tabernacle was. Now in verses 14 to 28, we have the description of the inside of the structure of the temple. As far as the tabernacle went, the inside walls would be the innermost tapestry of the tabernacle. It was divided into the holy place and the most holy place. While the inside of the temple would be divided into these two spaces too, the inside would obviously look more ornate. If it had been left alone, the inside would have simply been the hewn stone. But no, Solomon covered the stone of the walls from the floor to the ceiling with cedar boards, carved with ornamental buds and open flowers in them, while covering the floor with planks of cypress. And if that wasn't enough, he overlaid the cedar wood with gold throughout. This was truly a magnificent building to look at from the inside. At the back of the temple was the most holy place where the Ark of the Covenant would be placed, that was 20 cubits on all sides. That equates to 30 feet on all sides. Comparing that with the dimensions of the most holy place in the tabernacle, it was double the size. But that wasn't the only difference between the most holy place of the temple versus the tabernacle. For inside the most holy place of the temple were 2 cherubim made with olive wood overlaid with gold, standing 10 cubits tall or 15 feet tall. We don't know what the cherubim looked like other than the fact that they both looked the same and had wings spanning 5 cubits or 7.5 feet in length. The wings of the cherubim would touch each other in the middle, while the other wing would touch the wall on the other side. Meanwhile, the holy place of the temple would span the rest of the temple, being 40 cubits long by 20 cubits wide, or 60 feet long by 30 feet wide. The altar of incense would stand just outside the most holy place in the temple and was made of cedar wood instead of acacia wood. However, both altars were overlaid with gold. So the temple is beginning to take shape. But there's still more to discuss, which we will continue to do, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 1 Kings chapter 6, verses 29 to 38, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.